Oh, that's interesting.
So where do you find so the problem is that like there's no fixed point of truth anymore at all. And I know that when there were 4 news stations, there was a lot of propaganda.
Yeah.
And I like Sam says, I do think the internet has ushered in the fact that you can find people like yourself that are actually doing really good work and on the ground and actually, it's like you remind me of sort of the blue collar journalist
the old school journalist.
You are.
Yeah.
And I love you for that. I mean, you even look the part and you're so much more important than you think because you're one of those guys I always think about, which is that I know right now people don't necessarily watch your takedown, for example, of Taylor Lorenz, she's a very powerful journalist. And she seems to have found a home in lots of different areas. But boy, is she, and I'd love you to talk about that because I want to get your take on, because you did this whole expose on Taylor Lorenz to the point where she was actually tweeting about it and saying some right-wing weirdo is trying to take me down. Well, no, you're not a right-wing weirdo. You're the farthest thing from that.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
That's what she was saying.
Right.
And
she likes to call names.
I
never called her a single name.
No, you didn't. But what you did do was you exposed to an extent how a lot of journalists fabricate or at least get younger people to go bad on someone to create a story. Yeah. Right? Can you like talk about that? Can you talk about that? Like Taylor Lorenz is an example of that, but how prevalent is that? How much is that
smear
kind of
campaigns?
thing happening? Yeah, well, maybe Alastair can talk. Do you know who Taylor Lorenz is?
Well, they were telling me a little bit before.
Yeah, so she go ahead.
Taylor is formerly a very powerful reporter for the New York Times. She just got a new gig at the Washington Post.
And why do you think that is, if gun to your head?
I don't want to speculate, but to quote Trump on Ghislaine Maxwell, I wish her well. How's that? I wish her well. Wish her well at the Washington Post.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Dillon's gone bad on her. Rogan's gone bad on her. I guess she got a lot of pushback for the way she is, but I don't know much about her.
But were they cool with her before?
I don't know anything about her, but I just, from watching this, she's being sued by this woman, but go on.
Yeah, Ari Jacobs. I think that lawsuit's still ongoing. She's, the New York Times lawyer to the teeth. So we'll see how that ends up. But, there are certain reporters who... you become powerful. If you're a big reporter, you can leverage power. Particularly her beat was Gen Z, millennials, TikTok. And when you're doing stories on 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, you can exert a certain amount of pressure to get people to say what you want, even implicitly.
How?
Right? So you can...
You mean like she's doing stories on a 15-year-old, let's say, TikTok?
Have you heard of these like hype houses and all these various things in LA, right? So she'd go in and be like, what can you tell me about X person or Y person? Or, I'd write you up in the story, get your name out. And people realize she can make or break careers a little bit. If they appear in a good light in the New York Times, wow, then now they get a source. And all that stuff compounds where it's like, they're trying to get Instagram verified. And so they have incentives to go along with whatever narrative she's trying to create, even if she's not explicitly saying what she wants.
I got you.
You're hooking younger people along. And so if you're asking, like, do you have any dirt on this person? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? You can nudge people to start saying things, innuendos, implications.
Yeah. She seemed to have done that. Was she the one who went after Mr. Beast?
Yes.
Yeah, who seems to give a lot of his money to charity and do some pretty
That
cool
guy
things.
is the most famous unknown person ever, right?
Yeah, but she went after him.
She's gone after him twice.
And she tried to get people to say he was an abusive work.
So the first time, the first time she went after him, he was growing on YouTube. And she's a good talent scout. She recognizes that also if you're covering people that are growing, she can benefit from that, right? If she can write a paper on something or takedown, that benefits her. And so her first approach was to go through all his tweets, dating back to when he was 15 years old.
Wow.
And find like, okay, did he say anything wrong or politically incorrect? Okay, we found 2 or 3 tweets. Let me highlight those tweets, right? He's like 15, 16, 18. I think he said the F word or something to the extent.
Yeah.
And that's what she runs with. She runs with that headline. Mr. Beast says some politically incorrect thing and just slams him on that. going through his tweets.
Already, I have such a problem.
That's
Well, that's what they're doing with Rogan right now with this Meghan Markle thing.
Of course.
He was impersonating the Queen, and we all know that the Queen doesn't like any of the people her family marries, in particular Princess Di. Meghan Markle did that big interview with Oprah Winfrey, and she expressed the kind of bad energy, coldness of the Queen towards her. Rogan does a joke about it. They run with it as Rogan called her that.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, they'll look for whatever they think will get them the most clickable, newsworthy headline. And if that's negative, often it is negative because people want to see.
But that is how you can make your career,
right? So, I mean, in data science, they call it p-hacking, where you're just like looking at a scatter plot and you want to concoct some sort of narrative. You'll just like look at the data points that confirm your narrative and ignore all the other ones. It's very easy to do on Twitter.
What's it called?
All the time, p-hacking.
P-hacking, right? Name of the show,
you
p-hacking.
can do that in a sense with Twitter. People have gotten wiser and wiser to it now. But people just tweet for years and years, on any type of thought. So if you just scan through somebody's Twitter account, particularly when they're a teenager, you can conduct any type of narrative you want.
You can convict them of thought crime. Taylor Wrench should read 1984.
You can make them look negative or positive, however you want. So that was her first approach. Got her a bunch of attention. I think she was at the Daily Beast doing that, but she would leverage these articles and then move on to the next higher. Yeah, the Atlantic. There we go. Daily Beast. Then
YouTube's biggest Atlantic has a history of homophobic.
There we go. Homophobic. She was getting them on the homophobic slurs.
This kid.
Yeah. So this was her first approach.
Look how young he looks there. I mean,
right.
I have a real problem with the left right now, and this.
But he has previously used slurs and made offensive jokes.
Yeah,
that's what she's going with.
Right,
but he's a kid.
I know, and he gives so much money away.
And the data points here, which is, I mean, I think of stories like a house, right? There's certain load-bearing walls in any story, and she's a very cheap contractor. Like, she doesn't use very strong load-bearing walls. So if you push the house, it starts to blow over. Like her examples for running the headline homophobic slurs, quote, Windows is gay. Yeah, that's a data point. Okay, thank you.
Unbelievable.
Thank you. So this was her first attempt.
And her, it seems to me that her intention is to cancel somebody for her own gain.
Oh, she wants heads on stakes.
Yeah, she knows
that's all they care about.
It's not making the world a better place. It's not making the world more equitable. This is just self-serving, going after a kid, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the left is doing that. They're going after children. It's like unbelievable.
I mean,
to me.
I don't even know that it's political. I think it's careerist.
Yes,
it's opportunist.
It's careerist,
right?
Yes,
it's jackally.
Yes.
The journalism business is not a loyalty business.
No.
It is burn anybody at all costs, generally. The second time, though, there's always a pattern with Miss Lorenz. And then when she was at the New York Times, Mr. Beast continued to get bigger and bigger. He's not like the biggest YouTuber of like all time.
Like, it's huge
and so
how
she went
big
after
he
him
is.
again on this kind of like workplace toxicity approach. And again, if we think about a house, a narrative being a house, a story being a house, what are the load-bearing walls? Well, one of her load-bearing walls was an individual that she got to speak saying, Mr. Beast was terrible for me, made me work like awful hours. And then it was pointed out that he had also made a video saying, Mr. Beast was fantastic. He helped me pay for this. I moved to he gave me all these opportunities. He told me to go to back.
And he's 22. He's 22.
Right.
Who, Mr. Beast?
This person, the subject that she's interviewing. So she got the subject to say, Mr. Beast was terrible. At the same time, he has another public statement praising Mr. Beast.
I saw it.
And in her story, she makes no mention of the fact that her exact same subject is over here actually praising Mr. Beast. It's like, well, wait a minute. You're, again, cherry-picking or p-hacking.
Did she get called out for that besides by you?
She got called out by Philip DeFranco, who's a YouTuber,
I remember that.
right? And he pointed out this kind of juxtaposition, shall we say, and she got very mad. And well, I shouldn't say. It seemed like she got very mad. And journalists, like all people, discuss things in private corridors. They like their safe spaces. People hop on Clubhouse and talk this and that. And then journalists enter into those spots and blow it up, and everybody's like, "Oh, I didn't know that was going to get heard or seen." So I thought I could play this game too. So I read all of her discords where she's talking privately about this. And she gets very upset with Philip DeFranco pointing it out and basically says, F Philip DeFranco, go downvote his video, turning her supporters on Philip DeFranco. Wow. So she'll wield the same same power or critique that she uses against influencers, like, oh, they're very powerful. They have all their fans brigade somebody, X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, here you are doing it behind closed doors.
Yep.
And I'm going to make it public. And when I make it public, one, you don't realize that there are other smart people out there besides you.
Yes.
Like, there are other people that can play this game.
Yeah.
And that's when she started calling me alt-right or whatever.
Hilarious.
And then she didn't realize that I could continue to read her private Discords or her Discord channel. I just tweeted back. I was like, I can see what you're saying. I've never voted Republican in my life. I mean, that they lost their mind. They went underground.
Oh, they did?
Oh, yeah. But
wow. Have you ever seen her in person?
no. And I should couch this in, I think we've all lived long enough that
Some of us longer than others.
know her
Thanks,
in real.
Sam.
I don't know her in real life.
Yeah.
And so she may be a fantastic person to her friends and her family. What I'll say is the system incentivizes her to behave poorly.